Hello there everyone and welcome to a new review on the channel. And today we're looking at an older product as well, but one that I've been using since I've purchased it, one that I've been performing, and one that I'm currently re-putting into some of the different shows that I'm writing because it really is a gem, and that is none other than the Marksman deck. I think it's kind of covered there, but it does say Marksman deck by Jermay and Vanishing Ink, a brilliant gimmicked and marked deck that I feel if you're kind of a mentalist, you're going to get a massive kick out of this. And I think this could be your go-to performance deck. So enough said about that. Let's roll the intro and dive more into what the Marksman deck is. Perfect, so you decide to stick around, which means you want to learn more about the Marksman deck. So what is the Marksman deck? The Marksman deck is Jermay's kind of approach to an end-all mark deck for mentalist performers. This deck will allow you to do so much. Not only is the deck marked for what cards there are in the deck, but it has so many marks on it. It is literally filled to the brim. Even Jermay jokes that like when you see this and you know that there's the marks, you're maybe gonna be self-conscious going out with this because it literally looks like a bingo sheet on the back of the cards. But it really is filled to the brim and it lets you do so many routines. And if used correctly, you can do like almost an hour show with nothing more than this deck and a few extra props to add kind of some show presence and some performance style to your routine. But yeah, none other than that, let me do a quick performance of one of the effects in the project. Now I don't have everything that I need to do the effect because for that he uses a pad, he uses a metronome, sometimes he uses a blindfold, so I won't be going through all of it. But essentially, what the routine is you talk about remote viewing, and that's the ability of seeing things through something else than yourself. Some people believe it's energy, some people believe it's your other self, some people believe it's purely intuition, but it doesn't matter necessarily what the people believe it is, it just matters that it is something that some people are able to do, and that's what I'm going to demonstrate here for you. So essentially, you would ask a spectator, you could have a blindfold, you would have a pad as well, I won't do it with all of that, but you'd ask someone to cut a small portion of the cards, and that goes into their pocket or on their chest. And then you tell them that what we're going to do is we're going to use a pad and we're going to get some pieces of information here. So then you would take, for example, the pad and you would like focus on the cards and you would write, for example, I would write 15. Then I would go and I would write 8. So I would write 15, 8, and then I would write 84. So then imagine this is a pad and I write 15, 8, and 84. And then you tell them, can you remove the cards? Can you place them on the table? Now, the first thing that I got an intuition from is 15. So if you count here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 cards. That's the first thing that I kind of saw. The second thing was 8. And that's the amount of red cards that I saw because they're much brighter, so they're easier to see and they're easier to connect with. So let's count and see how many cards are red. I said 8, right? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 red cards. Exactly that. And the last number that I wrote down is 84. But clearly there's not 84 cards here or 84 reds. 84 is a number that came to me. It's like a number that I just saw. And I think it's the sum of all these cards. So now I won't count them all for you, but if the spectator would add up 4 plus 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 5 plus 9 plus 2 plus 12 plus 3 plus 12 plus 8 plus 6, it would equal to 84. So you also got the sum of all of the cards that they cut you in their hand. So that is my favorite routine from the project and one that I perform all the time. And when I mean all the time, you can actually see this is like my 4th deck and it's already like butchered, it's like crimped, it's used. I use this constantly. So that's one of the routines in the project. But again, he does add a metronome, you do have a pad, and you can even have a blindfold, so it adds presentational value. You wouldn't do it like I just did, kind of a throwaway like this, but you get what I mean. So now that you know what the Marksman deck is, let's talk about where you buy this, how much does it cost, and what do you get. So this can be bought from Vanishing Ink. I do believe they are the easiest place to buy this from, especially because you can also buy refills really easily from Vanishing Ink. The Marksman deck with the instructions will set you back $35. So you're going to get one of these mandolin-backed Marksman decks, as well as a tutorial and a live performance. So you get like a 45-minute show with Luc Jermay. If you're interested in this, I do believe Vanishing Ink offer this show for free for you to watch. So you can watch the show for free and then go into and purchase the product if you want. But you're getting like a 45-minute live show. And then you're getting instructions, which are, I believe, close to 2 hours long. It's been a long time since I've watched them. Because, well, I've had this for a long time, but I do believe they're close to 2 hours long with Luc Jermay, and he goes over why he made the deck, why he believes is good, why he put so many marks, why he put the marks that he put on it, why he chose these designs, this stack, everything of that. He goes through kind of a large portion explaining to you why this deck was made as it is. Then he's going to explain to you all the features of it, and then he's going to explain to you 5 routines. One of the routines that he's going to explain is the one that I showed you. One of them is a 2-person read. That's kind of a Luc Jermay classic. He does that in pretty much all of his kind of marketed routines. There's at least one of that where he has a person think of one, a person think of a card, and then he proceeds to read them through hot and cold, through various images, emotions, and reveal the cards. Another routine is kind of a lie detector type routine where a person can lie or tell the truth about cards, and you ask like some questions, some personal questions, and it kind of gets a back and forth. It's a really fun type routine, a really engaging one as well. That's the third routine that you get. Another one is kind of a human metronome routine or a human pendulum, where you have a pendulum, you give it to your spectator, you make it work for him, and then you take a glass and you take the pendulum, someone cuts a portion of the deck and you say to the pendulum, can you give me any signs or whatever? And let's say it knocks 9 times on the glass. So it goes like 1, 2, 3, set up till 9. And then you say 9. Everyone heard that, right? It hit the glass 9 times. That means that 9 cards down is a special card for us. So then you would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you show, for example, the 2 of diamonds. And you tell the spectator, you cut to one specific card, didn't you? What was it? Turn it and show it for everyone, the 2 of hearts. So you can show that you revealed the 2 mates. That's another routine that's provided to you. And then you get the last routine that is explained to you in the tutorial is kind of a mixed routine that has a lot of things going for it. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't remember what that routine is because I don't perform it. I usually perform those 4, mostly just the first 2. But yeah, you get an additional routine as well. So that's what you get with your purchase of the Marksman deck. Now there's also refills of the Marksman deck, which are relatively cheap. So you can buy like either, I believe it's 2, 6, or 12 decks, or 2, 4, and 6 of bricks. I bought the 6 one, so I have, I think, 5 more refills. So because I always use it, so you can buy the refills as well. So that is essentially everything that you need to know about what you get, where you buy it, and some additional options of buying refills. Those are readily available for you. So knowing all of that, let's talk difficulty. So how difficult is the Marksman deck to perform? It's not difficult. In terms of mechanical prowess, there is basically almost no sleights. There's almost no moves. It's presentation. It's purely presentation, hooks, scripting, and pattern. That is where this is going to be good or bad. Because if you do the routine as I did to the camera, it's a pretty boring routine. It's just like, oh, he wrote down a few numbers and he got it. But if you do it like he does with a metronome, and then you do it with like a blindfold and you really play it out that you're feeling it, then it plays into a performance piece that can last like 10 minutes and is going to fry your spectators. And all of the routines, that's how they work. For example, the routines with the 2 spectators, right? I can easily just do this and I tell them, perfect, you said stop here. Can you take a look at that card? Please remember it, right? Boom, you do it with the second person and then you're just like, think of your card, King of Diamonds and X, right? You can do it like that, but it's kind of boring. And he gives you tips of making it really seem like you're not using anything else than your actual intuition or your mental capabilities or your feelings to achieve the effect, right? Because when you use a deck like this that is filled to the brim with information, just using the information and revealing it is kind of bland and boring, and spectators are maybe just going to think that, oh, it's clear that he uses a marked deck or something. Whereas if you do it like him, if you just do it like this and you say perfect, boom, remember it, you got it, great. Then you do it to another one, boom, you got it, absolutely great. And then you proceed in doing like a read, and you're like, okay, if you're thinking of a black card, no, before you even do that, I'm sensing that you're a visual person. Are you a visual person? You are, and you're an emotional person, right? And like you can go through like a bit of a reading and then you proceed from that. So you're like, if you're a visual person, if you're thinking of a black card, think of the cold. I want you to think of something cold. I want you to think of a stormy night, or maybe a Christmas night where it's like hailing outside or it's cold. But if it's a red card, I want you to think of you at the beach. I want you to think that you're enjoying the sun, maybe a nice cocktail on the beach. Can you do that? And then you proceed to reveal things from apparently their memory while revealing the cards. So no one is actually going to come back to the deck because the deck was used so early in the effect that by the time you reveal the cards, like 3 or 4 minutes later, then no one is going to think that you saw the mark, because you're kind of revealing things from the person and it plays much, much larger. So essentially, without talking too much, which I usually do, yes, it's easy to do. You just have to make sure you put a nice presentation through it and you use it carefully and you use it well. So difficulty-wise, pretty easy. In terms of practicality, how practical is this? Well, if you just want to perform the routines in simple ways, so in kind of streamed down fashion of what Luke does, then you just need the deck with you. That's all you need. Maybe a deck and a table and you're good to go. If, however, you want to perform how he does, so with a pendulum in the glass, with a candle, with a metronome, with a blindfold, you're going to have to carry around much more with you. But keep in mind that you can make a 40-minute show with just this deck and those items. So if ever you do like a close-up show or a parlor show, you can definitely entertain people for an entire night with just these effects. So that's important to keep in mind as well, okay? So that's essentially kind of what you're going to have to carry around is your deck. And apart from that is anything extra that you want. So practicality wise, it is very good. Plus, it's also important to know that if ever you want to kind of get out of the way that the deck is used, there's also markings to use it as a shuffle deck. So he gives you kind of a way where you can do 2-3 routines where you use the pre-programmed markings and the special kind of stack of the deck to do routines, and then you can ask someone to shuffle, and then you do 1 or 2 routines with a shuffle deck. But there's also markings used to help you if you're using this as a shuffle deck as well. So yes, in regards to that, you can, because I know some people would have asked that, but you can also shuffle this and use it as a normal marked deck. So if ever in your show you want to just use a normal deck for something, you can use this without a problem, okay? But having said that, let's continue with practicality. What are the angles? The angles are pretty much 360 for 90% of the routines, 360 degrees, you're good on that. Inspectability, I feel that this deck will never really be inspected depending when you perform it. It won't really need to be. But if ever, I think that people are going to find out the marks really quickly, so you don't really want this to be inspected, okay? I feel that if you're just using it on the table, you're having them select cards, touch cards, and you're just using it as a normal deck and just kind of throw away, you're just leaving it at the table while you're talking and not like, taking it and hiding it underneath the box for them not to see anything. If you're just using this as a normal deck and just acting casual, I don't think that people are going to want to inspect the deck. I think you're going to be fine regarding that. But it is not inspectable if ever it really is an issue. Regarding reset, if ever you want to do the shuffled performance and then shuffle the deck in the middle of your set, you will not be able to go back to it without a reset, okay? So the reset is going to take you maybe a minute, 2 minutes to reset it back in its original state if ever you shuffle it or someone drops it. So be careful about that and keep that in mind. And you also don't need a table for some of the routines. That's also important to keep in mind. You can just do this while having the deck in your hands and having people cut to cards. You don't need a table. That's great as well. So that's all I have to say about practicality. Moving on to where would you perform. So where can you perform with the Marksman deck? And I'll be brief in this section, and that is pretty much anywhere. You can do this parlor, you can do this stage, you can do this cabaret, you can do it close up, you can do this table hopping, you can use it mingling, you can use it at your house, you can use it anywhere. Literally, you can use these routines, these effects, and this deck to affect pretty much anywhere you go. So as long as you have it with you, you can use it. And that's why they even made the refills kind of cheap, is that Luc Jermay says that he believes that this could be your go-to deck from now on. So I believe that if you're a mentalist, this could be, because it is mine at least, I'll be transparent about that. It is my go-to deck for mentalism routines. I have a lot of them, and none of them have trumped this. Before this, it was the code by Andy Nyman, but the additional features that this adds above the code are just beyond, and there's no deck that I've seen that replicates the use that this does for me. So pretty much anywhere. Having said that, what are the positives and negatives of the Marksman deck? Let's start with the negatives. There's only two negatives. One of the negatives is that the reset will take a bit of time. So if ever someone drops the cards or shuffles the cards in ways that you do not intend or in areas that you did not predict it, then you're going to have to replace the deck in order. So that could be an issue if, for example, you're out doing table hopping and at one table you drop the cards, or specter drop the cards, and you really wanted to perform this from table to table to table, you're going to have to go maybe somewhere else and reset it and then go out again. Again, you could just have a spare in case that happens, but it is something worth mentioning. Additionally, a negative is that it is telling you a lot of information, which means that it is marked to the brim. Almost every single inch of the card is marked, okay? So you understand this if you actually own it or if you buy it. Almost every single inch of the card is marked, which means that it is really not inspectable at all. But it is, you cannot have such a powerful deck and have it be inspectable. It's just not possible, right? So knowing all of that, let's get into the positives. 1, the instructions. It's Luc Jermay. It's great. 2, the deck is great. 3, the routines. Again, Luc Jermay, probably one of my favorite magicians and mentalists of all time, so I may be a bit biased. It's his routines. They're thought out to perfection, scripted to perfection. They are great. What you can do with this is great. It's practical. You can do this table hopping. You can play this as much as you want. It's super easy to do if you put the time into the presentations of it. You can perform this pretty much anywhere. It is absolutely great. So, having said all this, would I recommend the Marksman deck, and what do I rate it out of 10? In all honesty, I would recommend the Marksman deck with the highest regards to mentalists. I think that magicians are going to have some fun with this, but if you're not into mentalist type presentations, I feel just using other marked decks are going to give you the same amount of punch. But I feel that for mentalists, and if you really want to put the spin that Luc Jermay puts in his routines, I think this is a must-have for any mentalist out there that uses playing cards. It is truly the holy grail, in my opinion, of mentalist marked decks, in my opinion. So I fully recommend it for mentalists, and maybe for magicians, I feel you could use other decks that I think will suit your needs better than the Marksman deck. So having said that, what do I rate it out of 10? I think it's pretty safe to say that I'm going to rate this really high. I have used this. Even the deck in use now has been used a lot. I already have like 5 spares. I've had it for years. I've performed this for years. It is truly one of my favorite decks of cards. It is great. I'm giving the Marksman deck a 10. I think that I've used this so much that I cannot give it any less than a 10. If every gig I use the Marksman deck, every single one, it is there. And I think that an effect that I use that much doesn't deserve anything less. So a 10 from me on the Marksman deck, highly recommend. And yeah, if you have any additional questions, leave them down below. If not, I'll see you all in my next review. Have a great one.